Have you ever looked into a mirror long enough that your own reflection began to feel like a stranger? The eyes staring back at you aren't just yours. They're the silent witnesses of every moment you gave up on yourself, every promise you broke in the dark when no one was watching. The mirror never lies. It shows the truth beneath the excuses, beneath the distractions, beneath the endless chase for validation from a world that doesn't even pause to notice your exhaustion. We live in an age where people applaud others' progress while quietly resenting their own stagnation. You scroll through screens filled with fabricated victories, digital smiles, and filtered lives. You see someone else's highlight reel and mistake it for evidence that you're losing the race. But here's the truth: there is no race. There's only you. And until you realize that, you'll spend your entire life running in circles around your own potential. You see, focusing on yourself isn't selfish, it's survival. Every time you pour your energy into gossip, comparison, or envy, you are silently starving your own growth. You are handing your power to everyone and everything outside of you, hoping that somehow their success will spill over into your life. But it never does. Because the universe doesn't reward imitation. It rewards authenticity. The people who win in life aren't necessarily the smartest, the most talented, or the most connected. They're the ones who learn how to shut out the noise. They build themselves in silence, brick by brick, day by day, even when no one is watching. Especially when no one is watching. They know that the greatest battles aren't fought on stages or in boardrooms. They're fought in the mind. In that lonely space where discipline wrestles with doubt and consistency bleeds through boredom. The uncomfortable truth is that most people aren't afraid of failure. They're afraid of isolation. Because to truly focus on yourself, you must detach. From opinions, from validation, from the illusion of belonging. You must learn to be comfortable in your own company, to hear your thoughts echo and not flinch at their volume. That's where transformation begins. In the raw silence where you meet your true self without the mask. Imagine, for a moment, that every ounce of energy you've wasted on comparison was redirected toward your craft, your body, your mind. Imagine if every time you felt jealous, you turned that emotion into fuel. That's what focus is, it's alchemy. It's turning chaos into clarity, emotion into motion. And the moment you do that, the entire trajectory of your life begins to change. But this is where most people fall apart. They want results without isolation. They want success without sacrifice. They crave growth but resist the discomfort that comes with it. You cannot build an unshakable foundation while standing in the crowd. Growth requires solitude because solitude reveals truth. And truth, real, unfiltered truth, is the most powerful motivator there is. When you start focusing on yourself, you'll feel the pull of the world trying to drag you back. Friends will misunderstand you. Family might question your choices. Society will whisper that you're being selfish or distant. But remember this: every person who ever built something meaningful had to walk alone at some point. Solitude isn't punishment. It's preparation. As Friedrich Nietzsche once wrote, the individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. That struggle is timeless. And in the modern world, it's louder than ever. To focus on you is to swim against the current, to choose self-mastery over conformity, purpose over distraction, and peace over popularity. The mirror still waits, and every time you look into it, it asks one silent question. Are you finally ready to focus on you? Because until you do, you will never win. There's a strange kind of silence that arrives when you finally withdraw from the noise. It's not peaceful at first, it's deafening. It's the silence that exposes how much of your identity has been shaped by other people's opinions. When you strip away the external voices, you start to realize how little of your life has actually been lived for you. This is why most people fear solitude. Not because they dislike being alone, but because in solitude, there's nowhere left to hide. The quiet reveals everything you've been avoiding, the neglected dreams, the self-doubt buried under distraction, the voice inside you that whispers, you could have been more. It's an uncomfortable confrontation, but it's also the birthplace of clarity. Isolation isn't punishment, it's purification. It burns away the illusions you've inherited from the world. It shows you what truly matters. The more you detach from the noise, the clearer your own frequency becomes. You start to see how much energy you've wasted trying to fit into systems that were never designed for your spirit. You start to notice that most people aren't living, they're performing. Performing happiness, performing ambition, performing confidence. And the longer you perform, the further you drift from authenticity. The sacred isolation is where you remember who you were before the world told you who to be. It's where you realize that focusing on yourself isn't about arrogance. It's about alignment. It's about gathering all the fragments of your energy that have been scattered across timelines, people, and places, and bringing them back home to you. But solitude is demanding. It will test your patience, your faith, and your consistency. There will be days when you doubt the path entirely. You'll wonder if you're falling behind while everyone else seems to be advancing. That's the illusion. The crowd moves fast, but rarely deep. You, on the other hand, are digging roots. Depth takes time. Foundations require stillness. Every breakthrough in history was born from isolation. The thinker retreating into study, the artist locking themselves away in creation, the athlete training when no one's cheering. They understood that focus is forged in the quiet, when distractions die and purpose breathes. That's when the mind reorganizes itself, when your energy aligns toward a single aim. To focus on you until you win means learning how to be alone without being lonely. It means replacing validation with vision. You start asking yourself deeper questions. What do I really want? What am I capable of if I stop doubting myself? Those questions hurt at first because they demand honesty. But honesty, no matter how brutal, is the foundation of greatness. You begin to realize that the greatest act of self-respect is discipline. To wake up every day and choose yourself. To prioritize growth over comfort. To study, to train, to build, even when no one acknowledges it. You stop seeking permission to evolve. You stop waiting for applause. The reward becomes internal, a quiet sense of power that no one can take away. And in that solitude, you start to transform. The confusion that once clouded your mind begins to dissolve. You start to feel centered, anchored, deliberate. You realize that success isn't a sudden explosion. It's a gradual ignition. Each day of focus adds oxygen to the fire until one day, the world notices what you've become. But by then, you no longer need their validation. True focus rewires the spirit. It turns insecurity into certainty, fear into direction, pain into fuel. And that alchemy only happens in silence. Henry David Thoreau once wrote, "I never found a companion that was so companionable as solitude." That's not loneliness speaking, it's liberation. Because the moment you learn to enjoy your own company, you become unstoppable. You're no longer driven by scarcity or fear of being unseen. You're driven by something higher, self-mastery. This is the power of sacred isolation. It's not the absence of others. It's the presence of yourself. And once you've found that presence, the next step is to build with it, to channel that clarity into direction, discipline, and unbreakable focus. When you emerge from solitude, something begins to shift. You start to see that all progress, every ounce of transformation, depends on discipline. Not the kind that thrives on motivation or fleeting excitement, but the kind that is born in the quiet repetition of effort, even when it hurts, even when no one notices. Discipline is not glamorous. It's not what people post about when they show their success. It's the invisible architecture behind every visible achievement. It's waking up before the world, not because someone expects it, but because you've made a promise to yourself. It's saying no to distractions that once defined you. It's trading comfort for consistency. When you focus on you until you win, you learn that the greatest form of self-love is self-control. Every decision you make either strengthens your foundation or weakens it. The habits you build in silence become the destiny you live in public. The world will always try to lure you back into comfort, with entertainment, validation, and shortcuts, but discipline keeps you immune. It reminds you that you are not here for approval. You are here for evolution. The disciplined person doesn't wait for perfect conditions. They create them. They move forward in uncertainty, trusting that consistency will build clarity. The process is rarely beautiful. It's repetitive. It's frustrating. Some days you'll question if any of it matters. But that's the price of mastery. Greatness demands that you give more than you think you can, longer than you think you should. Think about it. The seed buried underground doesn't question why it's in the dark. It trusts the process of becoming. It knows that the darkness isn't punishment, it's preparation. You, too, must learn to trust your seasons of obscurity. Those are the days when your roots are forming, when your resilience is tested, when your future self is quietly being constructed. But discipline requires something deeper than effort. It requires identity. You cannot sustain what you do not believe you are. That's why most people quit. They try to act disciplined while still identifying as undisciplined. They chase results without changing the story they tell themselves. The true transformation begins when you stop doing discipline and start being disciplined. When your daily choices reflect who you've decided to become. Focus on yourself until every action, every thought, every habit aligns with that identity. That's when the grind turns into rhythm. That's when resistance turns into momentum. You stop negotiating with excuses because you've already made the decision to win. But the world will test your focus. You'll be tempted to measure your progress by the pace of others. You'll see people rising faster, gaining attention, achieving results while you're still building quietly. That's where most give up when the applause goes elsewhere. But those who endure the process understand a sacred truth. Time favors the consistent. Discipline doesn't shout. It whispers, says keep going, says you're not done yet. And the people who listen, really listen, become unstoppable forces of nature. Because once you've proven to yourself that you can do what you said you would, no external opinion holds power over you anymore. There's a kind of freedom that comes with that, an unshakable calm. You stop needing to announce your goals or defend your silence. You simply do. Your actions speak the language of mastery. And as you persist, something extraordinary happens. The world begins to bend toward your consistency. Opportunities align. Momentum compounds. What once felt impossible becomes inevitable. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." The same truth applies here. Stop talking about success. Embody it. Stop waiting for focus. Become it. When you live with discipline, you stop chasing outcomes and start attracting them. You understand that winning isn't a single event. It's a state of being. The isolation forged your clarity. Discipline now sculpts it into strength. But there's a deeper layer still, one that will determine whether your focus turns into fulfillment or just another endless pursuit. By the time you begin to master discipline, you'll realize that the real battle was never against the world. It was always within you. The battlefield isn't the office, the gym, or the stage. It's your mind. The mind is both the architect and the saboteur of your destiny. It will build you into a conqueror or bury you beneath your own hesitation. The greatest challenge you'll ever face is learning to manage the constant dialogue between who you are and who you're becoming. One voice whispers, "You've done enough. Rest." The other murmurs, "You can go further." And somewhere in between, your fate is decided. Every person who's ever reached greatness fought this internal war. They've stared down fear, procrastination, and self-doubt until those shadows lost their authority. They learned that control over the external world means nothing without control over the inner one. Focusing on yourself until you win demands mental sovereignty. You must take responsibility for every thought that enters your mind and every emotion that lingers there. You cannot control the world, but you can control your reaction to it. And that power, when fully realized, is liberation. Most people never achieve focus because they've been conditioned to obey their emotions. They wait to feel ready. They chase motivation like it's oxygen. But motivation is fickle. It abandons you the moment discomfort arrives. Emotional mastery, on the other hand, doesn't rely on mood. It's the ability to act despite emotion, to choose reason over reaction, and vision over volatility. When fear speaks, don't silence it, study it. Fear is data. It tells you where your next level lies. When you feel resistance, it's not a sign to retreat. It's proof that you're expanding. The mind will always resist what threatens its comfort zone. That's why the path to mastery feels uncomfortable. It's supposed to. Growth demands tension. Emotional discipline is the art of using your feelings as fuel instead of shackles. Anger becomes energy. Doubt becomes data. Pain becomes perspective. Every emotion, when understood, can serve your purpose instead of sabotaging it. But to reach that level of control, you must stop identifying with your emotions and start observing them. You are not your thoughts, you are the awareness behind them. The mind will test you with illusions. The illusion of not being good enough, the illusion of running out of time, the illusion that others are your competition. But once you quiet that noise, you see the truth: you were never behind, and you were never lacking. You simply hadn't yet learned to trust yourself completely. Trust is the foundation of inner power. When you trust yourself, you move with conviction. Doubt loses its grip because you've proven through discipline that you can rely on your own effort. The mind begins to serve you instead of sabotage you. Focus becomes second nature. But mastery requires awareness. Pay attention to what triggers your distraction. Every time you drift from your purpose, ask yourself why. Awareness is the beginning of control. Control is the beginning of power. When you learn to command your thoughts, the world can no longer manipulate you. External chaos loses its influence because your internal order is stronger. You stop reacting and start responding. You stop competing and start creating. That's when focus turns into flow, a seamless alignment between mind, body, and purpose. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Freedom, then, isn't about having no obstacles, it's about having no internal enemies left. When you master your mind, every challenge becomes a tool for transformation. This is the evolution of focus. It begins in solitude, strengthens in discipline, and matures in self-mastery. And once you conquer your mind, something profound happens. Life itself begins to yield. Opportunities appear, timing aligns, and the impossible starts to bend under the gravity of your certainty. But there's one final stage, the moment when focus transcends achievement and becomes legacy. There comes a moment, quiet, almost imperceptible, when everything you've endured begins to align. The solitude that once felt like exile now feels like sanctuary. The discipline that once felt like burden now feels like rhythm. The battles within your mind that once drained you now empower you. This is the point where you stop trying to win and start embodying the energy of a winner. Winning, in its truest sense, isn't a destination, it's a vibration. It's the frequency you operate on when your thoughts, emotions, and actions move in harmony. You stop chasing results because you've become the cause of them. You're no longer waiting for success. You are success in motion. Most people think victory is about being better than others. It's not. Real victory is about becoming better than your former self. Consistently, relentlessly, endlessly. It's about understanding that the only competition worth acknowledging is the one that exists between who you were yesterday and who you are becoming today. When you truly focus on yourself, the idea of comparison dissolves. You stop asking, "Am I ahead?" and start asking, "Am I aligned?" You begin to see that every trial, every heartbreak, every setback was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to sculpt you. Life was chiseling away your weakness, preparing you to carry the weight of your own greatness. The pain was never punishment. It was instruction. It was teaching you resilience, patience, self-trust. And when you finally integrate those lessons, you realize that you never lost anything by focusing on yourself. You only shed what was never yours to keep. The true power of focus is that it redefines what winning even means. You stop measuring success by applause, money, or recognition. You measure it by peace, by the quiet satisfaction of knowing you kept your promise to yourself. You measure it by alignment, when your purpose, your effort, and your results all move as one. You measure it by impact, how your evolution inspires others to begin their own. Because make no mistake, when you focus on you until you win, you become a force. People feel your presence before you speak. Your energy carries conviction because it's been refined through isolation, discipline, and mental mastery. You don't need to demand respect. Your consistency commands it. Winning then becomes less about reaching a summit and more about expanding horizons. You realize that the summit was never a peak. It was a doorway to another level of purpose. The focus that once helped you survive now helps you serve. You turn inward not just to elevate yourself, but to elevate others through example. You start to teach without preaching. You show what's possible through embodiment, not explanation. That's what true leadership is. It's influence without effort. You've become magnetic because you've mastered the one thing most people never do: yourself. And yet, even here, focus remains essential. Because the moment you start winning, new distractions appear: admiration, comfort, ego. The same tools that built you can destroy you if you forget why you started. That's why the phrase "focus on you until you win" isn't just instruction. It's protection. It reminds you that focus isn't temporary. It's eternal. It's how you stay grounded while ascending. You learn to keep building when others celebrate, to keep growing when others plateau, to keep listening to the mirror, not for validation, but for truth. The mirror that never lies now reflects not a stranger, but a warrior who earned their peace. You've become the person you once needed, the proof that isolation can create strength, that discipline can create freedom, and that mastery can create meaning. As the philosopher Lao Tzu once wrote, "He who conquers others is strong. He who conquers himself is mighty." You have become mighty not through domination, but through alignment. Because in the end, to focus on you until you win is not about chasing a crown. It's about becoming the kind of person who no longer needs one. You no longer seek victory, you radiate it. Your life becomes a quiet testament to the power of inner work, a living reminder that greatness isn't found, it's forged. And so the mirror, once a challenge, now offers only reflection. It whispers the words you've earned through every trial, every moment of doubt, every disciplined step forward. You focused, you endured, you became, you won.